Welcome, friends of the Greasy Shop Rag. Today we're going to take a look at an Echo PPT-265 pole saw. The customer complaint is that it's been sitting around for a long time with fuel in it, and he's certain that the old fuel has varnished up and he wants the carburetor replaced. Simple enough job. I think we're going to replace that air filter as well. It doesn't look very good. And we might even take a look into the fuel tank. So in this video you'll see that I'm using a battery powered screwdriver now. Just something, one late night shopping trip on Amazon looked like a good idea, so we're going to give it a spin. Alright, off comes the air filter choke plate. And here's our new carburetor. This is a direct Echo replacement. This is not a late night Amazon shopping trip. So first we need to remove the throttle linkage. In order to do that, you usually have to turn the holder that the end of the throttle cable ferrule fits into, because there's a stop behind it to keep it from just sliding out when it's at idle position with no tension on the cable. Alright, what are we looking for? I guess we looked in there and decided that it was nasty, so off comes the fuel line. We just got to come off either way. We're replacing the carburetor. There is this insulator plate that lives between, I guess it lives between the insulator and the carburetor, or an intake runner in the carburetor, whatever you want to call it, that big plastic block that actually insulates heat from the engine away from the carburetor. This fuel line, it just seems really funky to me. It feels weird. I mean, I'm going to replace it anyway, but, you know, when you're working on stuff, you need to be a little bit observant as to what you're seeing so that you can make educated decisions in the future. I think they call that learning. So you might see me fumbling around a little bit on this repair, just checking things out. You know, how long is a fuel line gonna last in a pole saw? Well, I don't know, but if I keep track of how long it lasted in this one, and then maybe in the next repair, and then maybe in the next repair, I'll have a good idea. The fuel line got really hard above the tank where it was exposed to air, and really soft below the grommet where it was exposed to fuel. And I'm just checking it out. And if you look at that filter, that thing's been around the block. We're going to replace the fuel line with official Echo Shindawa fuel line. Not that it matters, but we have it, so we're going to run it. And actually, this stuff's been pretty good, this Echo fuel line. Now you can buy this grommet and these lines as a kit or individually. The grommet seems pretty decent, and it there was no complaint of fuel leaking. So we're going to run it. Now I could put the Echo generic fuel filter on it. I've been running these Husqvarna fuel filters. They work pretty good. And I got one handy right there, so that's what's going on. In she goes. Just want to make sure it's laying on the bottom of the fuel tank. Okay, we got our shiny new carburetor. We'll get the fuel lines pushed on. That one's being kind of stubborn, ain't it? Alright, with the carburetor fuel hoses attached, we're now going to attach the throttle cable. So a lot of times this brass looking piece will have one end on it that the ferrule on the end of the cable fits into, and one end that it won't. So make sure you got it oriented properly. And then you're going to have to turn the ferrule a little bit so that it clears that stop on the end of the behind the cable. Pretty simple stuff, pretty self-explanatory when you're working on it. What are we looking for? Just making sure that the impulse hose port on the carburetor matches up with the gasket. And I really don't need to do that for an official Echo carburetor. I have found though that a lot of the aftermarket carburetors, you know, it's hit or miss whether or not that impulse hole is going to line up where it's supposed to. It seems like the carburetors work fine if that hole lines up. It's the application that a lot of times that is the problem with those. And I think that's why they get a bad reputation as far as their function, whether they work or not, is because while the throttle linkage and the choke linkage and everything might line up correctly, if the impulse hole doesn't line up correctly, the dang thing ain't gonna run at all. So if you're using Chinese carburetors, just keep an eye on that. So we put some fresh fuel in here, we'll prime it up and see if she'll run on its new carburetor. That's all I got for you on the Echo PPT-265 pulse carb swap. Thanks for watching. Later.